Hey you guys, welcome back to the channel. There are so many things that can go wrong when it comes to finances, and a lot of those things are just caused by our mistakes. Today we're going to go over some of those mistakes so you can avoid them. Let's get into it. The number one mistake that people make is just neglecting their budget or not having a budget at all. Budgeting makes it so that when you get money, when you have an income, that you know what's happening to that money. So very often people end up getting their paycheck and they just spend it all and don't really account for it or know where it's going. This is really problematic because so many of the purchases we make, especially when we're not tracking them, are just things that aren't going to help move us forward to a financial future that we want. So tracking your expenses and making sure that you have a budget is the number one thing to do. Mistake number two is just not saving. I know that saving can be so difficult. I know for me in my late teens and early 20s, saving was something that was not the easiest to do, especially when you're working maybe part-time jobs or you're trying to get through college, or maybe you've just gotten married really young. Saving is really difficult. But when you do have a savings account and you are actually contributing to it, it gives you a little bit of a buffer. And part of that buffer is called an emergency fund, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. But having a solid savings plan and saving even just a little bit every single month can protect you from a lot of disaster in your future finances. Mistake number three, and I alluded to this one in saving, is not having an emergency fund. There are many reasons you could save. You could be saving for a house. You could be saving for college. You could be saving for a car. But one thing that you should always save for, and probably the most important thing to save for, are emergencies. Things that just come up out of the blue that you did not expect at all. Maybe you end up needing a new set of tires. Something goes bad on your car. You end up damaging something in your apartment and have to pay for it. These are just things that we wouldn't expect, and even just having a little bit of money set aside for these emergencies would help you so much. A lot of people in the industry, specifically the Ramsey team, Dave Ramsey and his team, recommend having at least $1,000 as a starter emergency fund, and that can cover many of the expenses that would come up that you just weren't expecting that would otherwise force you to go into debt. This one is so huge. I just did a whole video about this, but accumulating high interest debt. There are some debts that are less problematic than others, but some debts like credit card debt have incredibly high interest rates, where if you don't pay off your balance every month, or you're not at least making your minimum monthly payments, you're going to accumulate maybe 15, 18, 20% interest, and that's just going to kill your finances. You're going to be throwing so much money at trying to control this interest that you're never going to be able to save or invest. So by all means, please avoid high interest debt. That brings us to number 5, and that is not investing early. We did talk about savings, but this is investing, which is just a little bit different. Investing for your future early on is such a huge advantage. When we're talking about investing, we're talking about the power of compound interest. And this is when interest is actually working for you. When you start investing early in your 20s or even in your 30s, you have so much time for that money to grow and work for you. And when you don't get around to investing early on, you just miss out on so much opportunity for growth over the years. Time is your biggest asset when it comes to investing. And so if you have any extra money in the month, or you just finally set a budget and now you have some extra money because you're budgeting, put some of that toward investments. Even if it's $25 or $50 a month, start small, and you're going to be amazed as you continue to do this over year after year after year. Your money will continue to grow, and you're going to be really, really impressed at the compounding effect that the interest has. Number 6, lifestyle inflation. This one is very, very easy to do. You're working for $15 an hour, and you start to live a certain way. You get a raise to $16 or $17 an hour. All of a sudden your lifestyle adjusts. You go out to eat a little bit more. Maybe you get a little bit of a higher car payment. Lifestyle inflation is something that just creeps up on us without even realizing it in most cases, and it's really dangerous. It can cause you to spend so much more than you should. And rather than getting ahead every time you get a raise, you're really just changing your lifestyle expectations. One thing that has happened to me over the years is a lifestyle inflation with my rent. I make a little bit more money, maybe we want to upgrade, get one extra bedroom or another bathroom. And that has been something that over the years, we've just spent a little bit more and a little bit more on rent. And a lot of times, every time I've gotten some sort of raise, it ends up eating up at least a portion of that raise. So it's always just something to be aware of. If you can go without some sort of lifestyle change, do it, because you can take that money, especially if you get a raise or a bonus or something, and you can invest it or save it or use it for something that's going to really improve your financial future. And that brings us to number 8, which is not building your credit responsibly. Earlier in the video, we talked a little bit about high interest debt. Building credit can sometimes lead people to get into credit card debt, but that's not how it should be. If you are going to ever try and build credit, you should be very responsibly using credit cards, just enough so that you actually can build some credit. I didn't start building credit until I was probably 23 or 24 years old. I got a credit card with a $500 limit on it, so very, very small limit. And then once a month, you get my gas, and I would just put that on the card, and then I'd go home and I'd pay it off. I never carried a balance on that car. Sometimes I would just go out, maybe we were gonna go eat out, and I just put it on the credit card, pay it off immediately when I got home. Some people will say that it doesn't work that way, that you need to leave a balance on, but guess what? I have a really good credit score, and that's how I've done it. And so that's one way that you can do things, but you need to make sure that you're using the credit card responsibly. You should never be utilizing more than like 10 or 15% of your credit card capability, I guess is the word. So if I have a $500 limit, I should really never spend more than $100 or $150 on the card. So anyway, you make sure if you do have a credit card, use it wisely. If you know yourself and that you're just not great at controlling your spending, stay away from the credit card. You can build credit later. Building credit is very, very helpful, but not totally necessary. I hope these tips have been helpful for you. These mistakes that people fall into, these traps that people fall into, these are all things that we want to avoid. Let me know down in the comments, what are some of these pitfalls that you've fallen into? What did you do to improve yourself so that you could get out of them and continue building your financial future? Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.